Sorry, human. I didn't mean to sit on it, alien girl moaned, and I had to help her before the mercs found us and killed us both. The words tumbled out of her mouth, a husky growl of frustration mixed with something else, something sharp and electric. I couldn't see her face clearly, just the glint of her gold eyes in the gloom of the derelict freighter's command deck. The pressure on my lap wasn't a knee or an elbow. It was the full, firm weight of her ass. And the thing she was sitting on, the thing that had elicited a pained hiss from her and a jolt of pure, unadulterated shock through me, was the jury-rigged power cell I'd been trying to conceal. It was now digging into the sensitive junction of my thigh, and apparently into her. My hands were bound behind the command chair with thick, fibrous restraints. My gear was in a pile by the shattered viewport, a sad monument to a scavenging run gone catastrophically wrong. "Get the fuck off me," I grunted, my voice rough. She shifted, and a fresh spike of agony shot from the power cell, making both of us flinch. Her skin was a stunning shade of turquoise, smooth and cool against the grimy fabric of my pants. Even in the low light, I could see the corded muscle in her arms and the confident, dangerous set of her jaw. A dominant warrior, no doubt. The kind that didn't ask twice. "I am interrogating you, soft skin," she snapped, her voice a low thrum that vibrated through the chair. "You do not give the orders. Lady, you're the one who just tried to hatch my only spare battery with your tailbone. Maybe you should watch where you park your chassis." A low growl was her only answer. She leaned forward, her face so close I could smell the ozone and faint, spicy scent of her skin. Her hair was a fall of straight black silk that brushed my cheek. "You scavenge these wrecks. The Corsair's daughter, a ship from the Elder Fleet, crashed on this moon 3 cycles ago. It carried a heartstone. Where is it?" My laugh was a dry, ugly sound. "A heartstone? Seriously? You think I'm walking around with a mythical power source in my back pocket? The best I found today was a half-eaten protein bar and a case of space syphilis." Her eyes narrowed. "You are a poor liar. Your scent betrays your anxiety. That's not anxiety, sweetheart. That's the smell of a man who's about to have his crotch fried by a high-yield battery because an alien Amazon won't get off him." She ignored the jab, her focus absolute. "The mercenaries who hunt me want the stone. They tracked me here. If you have it, you are in as much danger as I am." The name dropped a block of ice into my gut. The Core Vasha. Xenomercs with a reputation for liquidating entire outposts just to get one target. They didn't take prisoners. "If the Core Vasha are here, we're already dead," I said, my sarcasm draining away, replaced by cold reality. "So you can either get off my lap and we can die fighting, or you can stay there and we can die in a really fucking awkward position." She considered my words, her golden gaze unblinking. She didn't seem scared, just annoyed, as if the galaxy's most ruthless killers were a mere inconvenience. Then she pushed herself up. The release of pressure was a relief, but the sudden cold where she'd been was strangely noticeable. She stood over me, a silhouette of deadly grace against the star-dusted void visible through the broken viewport. "Show me your hands," she commanded. I strained against the bonds. "Kinda tied up at the moment, your handiwork." With a sigh that sounded more like a curse, she moved behind the chair. I felt a sharp tug, and the fibers parted. I pulled my hands free, rubbing my chafed wrists. "The stone," she repeated, her voice flat. "I don't have it," I said, looking her straight in the eye. "But I know this ship better than anyone. If it's here, I can find it. But you and I need to have a different conversation first. Starting with why you thought ambushing me was a good idea when a merc squad is breathing down your neck." She crossed her arms, the motion pulling the thin, dark fabric of her tunic tight across her impressive chest. "My people have a saying, seize the tool before the enemy does. To me, you were a tool." "I'm flattered," I said, getting to my feet and stretching the kinks out of my back. "Call me Kyle, by the way. It'll be easier to scream when the Core Vasha are gutting me." She almost smiled, a flicker of amusement in those lethal eyes. "I am Zelia, and they will not gut you. I will not allow it." It wasn't a promise. It was a statement of fact, a declaration of ownership, and that was almost more terrifying than the mercenaries. Zelia circled me like a predator sizing up its meal. Her confidence was a physical force, pressing in on me from all sides. "The Heartstone resonates," a low thrumming only those with the right lineage can feel. I tracked it to this sector, to this very wreck. It is here. She stopped in front of my discarded gear and nudged the bag with her boot. You found something. Something that felt significant, heavy with purpose. It's a hunk of metal, lady. Old pre-Federation tech. Probably a glorified paperweight. I lied, my heart starting to thud a little harder. Of course I'd found it. It was nestled in a shielded compartment in my pack right now. A smooth obsidian orb that felt warm to the touch and made the hairs on my arms stand up. I wasn't about to hand over the score of a lifetime to some bossy turquoise warrior princess who'd tied me to a chair. Let me see it, she ordered, her voice dropping a register. No, I said, crossing my arms to mirror her stance. I found it. It's mine, finders keepers. That's the law of the scrap heap. Her nostrils flared. A fascinating alien reaction. My claim supersedes your scavenger's rules. That artifact is a part of my heritage. It is the key to my throne. A key to your royalty? I couldn't help the snort of laughter. Seriously? I thought you were just a common garden variety hard ass. The look she gave me could have melted steel. I am Zilia of the House of Kor, rightful empress of the Ashfall worlds. And you, a filthy, soft-skinned scavenger, are mocking me. Hey, you're the one who introduced yourself by sitting on my junk. Forgive me if I'm not breaking out the red carpet. This was a mistake. I knew it the second the words left my mouth. Her culture, whatever it was, clearly didn't appreciate sarcasm during royal pronouncements. Her hand moved in a blur and something small and metallic was suddenly pressed against my neck. A cold, tingling sensation spread down my spine, making my muscles clench. It wasn't pain, not yet, but the threat of it was absolute. A neural agitator. Nasty piece of work. Human slang is perplexing, she hissed, her face inches from mine. You speak of your junk as if it is a thing of value, yet you offer it up with such casual defiance. Is this a challenge? An offering of submission? What? No, it's just a figure of speech. My mind raced. This was the second time a simple sarcastic comment had been wildly misinterpreted. It was like trying to defuse a bomb by telling it knock-knock jokes. The tingling intensified. My teeth started to ache. The stone kale, now. Okay, shit, just ease up on the happy zapper. The pressure receded slightly. I knelt slowly and unzipped my pack. My hand closed around the orb. It felt warmer than before, a deep resonant heat that seemed to pulse in time with my own heartbeat. I drew it out. In the dim light of the command deck, it seemed to drink the darkness. It was beautiful, I had to admit. Zilia's breath hitched. Her golden eyes were wide, fixed on the stone. She reached for it, her fingers trembling slightly. By the first breath, she whispered. And then, the universe decided to remind us we weren't alone. A deafening explosion ripped through the hull 3 decks below. The entire ship groaned, the deck plates shuddering violently under our feet. Red emergency lights flickered to life, bathing the bridge in a hellish, strobing glow. Kor Vasha, Celia snarled, her reverence for the stone instantly replaced by cold, battle-hardened fury. She snatched the orb from my hand. They've breached the lower hull. Another explosion, closer this time, sent a shower of sparks down from the ceiling. They'll sweep deck by deck, I said, my scavenger instincts kicking in. They'll be here in minutes. I will not let them take it. They're not here to take it, they're here to kill you and anyone standing next to you. I yelled over the groaning metal. That means me! She looked at me, then at the heartstone clutched in her fist. A flicker of something, calculation, maybe desperation, crossed her face. You know this wreck. It wasn't a question. Like the back of my hand, I confirmed. Then you will guide me, she said, grabbing the front of my jacket and hauling me to my feet. Her strength was absurd. Guide me to an escape route, and I will ensure you live to see another cycle. She shoved a plasma pistol into my hand. My own, from the pile of my gear. Stay close, soft skin, your survival is now linked to mine. I checked the charge on the pistol. Full. Gee, thanks, I grumbled. The familiar weight of the weapon a small comfort. Just try not to sit on anything else important. The ship was dying around us. The intermittent shriek of stressed metal and the distant rhythmic thud of plasma fire was our new soundtrack. Zelia moved with a fluid, predatory grace, the heartstone now tucked into a pouch on her hip. She had the lead, but she kept glancing back, expecting me to point the way. "This way," I grunted, ducking under a sparking mess of fallen conduits. "Service tunnels. They're shielded. Should mask our heat signatures for a while." We plunged into a narrow, dark corridor. The air was thick with the smell of burnt circuits and ionized air. The strobing red lights were gone, replaced by an oppressive blackness broken only by the thin beam of my headlamp. "You are surprisingly competent for a bottom feeder," Zelia said, her voice a low rumble just behind me. "And you're surprisingly chatty for a warrior queen on the run. Most royals I've met just scream and die." I heard a soft huff that might have been a laugh. My house was forged in betrayal and war, not on silken cushions. We do not scream. We moved in silence for a few minutes, the only sounds our footsteps on the grated floor and our ragged breaths. The tunnels twisted and turned, a maze I'd mapped over dozens of runs. They were the ship's veins, and I knew every single one. Suddenly, a tremor ran through the floor, much stronger than the others. A deep grinding roar echoed from somewhere above us. "That's not the mercs," I said, stopping and putting a hand on the wall to steady myself. "That's the ship's spine. The primary support structure is giving way." Zelia was instantly alert. "How long?" "Minutes, maybe less. The whole midsection is going to collapse into the canyon." Our escape route to the surface was gone. "There must be another way," she insisted, her tone leaving no room for argument. "There is," I said, turning to face her in the narrow confines of the tunnel. Her golden eyes seemed to glow in my headlamp's beam. "The lower engine room. There's a maintenance pod bay, small one-man crafts, but it's on the other side of the main cargo hold. And I guarantee that's where the Corps Vasha are setting up their command post. Then we go through them." It was so simple for her, so absolute. For me, it was suicide. There's a dozen of them at least. We're two people with sidearms. "I am not people," she corrected me, a dangerous edge to her voice. "I am a warrior of the Ashfall. I am worth 20 of them, and you will be a useful distraction." "Oh, I'm a distraction now? I thought I was a tool," I shot back. "You're a versatile thing, aren't you?" An earth-shattering crunch from above cut off her reply. The ceiling of the tunnel buckled, and a section of bulkhead slammed down just feet behind us, sealing the way we came. Dust and debris rained down. We were trapped. The only way out was forward, toward the mercs. "The universe seems to agree with my plan," Zelia stated, unfazed. She pushed past me, her shoulder brushing mine. A jolt, like static electricity, passed between us. I flinched, more from the surprise of the sensation than anything else. "Let's go, Kyle. It is time to see if your sarcastic tongue is as sharp as your aim." We crept toward the cargo hold, the sounds of battle growing louder. I could hear their harsh, guttural language now. They were close. I peeked through a grated opening into the vast, cavernous space. It was a kill box. At least 8 mercs were visible, armed with heavy plasma repeaters, taking up fortified positions behind shipping containers. We'd be cut down before we took 2 steps. I pulled back. "No good," I whispered. "They have the whole area locked down." Zelia peered through the grate, her expression grim. She saw it too, the impossibility of it. For the first time, a sliver of doubt seemed to touch her. "There is a maintenance conduit," I said, the idea forming even as I spoke. "It runs along the ceiling of the hold. It's tight, barely big enough for one person, but it bypasses their main line of sight. We will take it," she said immediately. "We?" I shook my head. "It's a one-person crawl, Zelia. I can go, try to get to the pods, maybe create a diversion." "No." Her refusal was swift and final. "The Heartstone stays with me. And you are my guide. We go together. We won't both fit. We will make ourselves fit," she declared, as if her sheer force of will could bend the laws of physics. And as I looked at the unyielding certainty in her eyes, I had the sinking feeling she was probably right. This was going to suck. The maintenance conduit was even tighter than I remembered. It was a claustrophobic metal tube, barely wide enough for my shoulders. Getting into it required me to go first, wriggling upward into the blackness. Zelia followed, her movements surprisingly lithe. But physics, as it turned out, was not impressed by her royal decree. We were pressed together from shoulder to ankle, a forced intimacy that was 1,000 times more intense than her sitting on my lap. I was on my stomach, crawling forward on my elbows, and she was right behind me, her front pressed against my back, her legs tangled with mine. Her breath was hot on my neck. I could feel the steady, powerful beat of her heart against my spine. I could feel every shift of her muscles, the texture of her tunic, the solid warmth of her body. My senses were on fire. The scent of her, that strange, spicy ozone smell, was all-encompassing in the enclosed space. "Move faster, Kyle," she murmured, her lips brushing my ear. Her voice was a low vibration that traveled through my entire skeleton. "I'm trying," I grunted, my elbows scraping on the rough metal. This wasn't designed for a two-person conga line. A conga line? Never mind, just try not to breathe so loud. Sound travels in these things. "I am not the one whose heart is beating like a trapped bird's," she retorted. I flushed, grateful for the darkness. She was right. My pulse was a frantic, panicked rhythm against my ribs. It wasn't just the fear of the mercs a few feet below us. It was her, the proximity, the raw, potent presence of her. It was messing with my head. We crawled in agonizing silence. Below us, through the grated floor of the conduit, we could see the mercs moving, their helmet lights cutting swaths through the gloom. Any loud noise, any slip, and we were dead. I focused on moving, on breathing, on not thinking about the woman pressed against me. But it was impossible. Her warmth was seeping into me, a radiating heat that had nothing to do with the failing life support. It felt primal, a deep cellular hum that vibrated from her body into mine. I risked a glance back. Her face was inches away, her golden eyes luminous. She wasn't looking at the mercs below. She was looking at me. There was a strange tension in her jaw, a subtle sheen of sweat on her brow. "Are you okay?" I whispered. You're really hot." "I am fine," she said, but her voice was strained. "It is. The pressure, the enclosed space." But it felt like more than that. The heat coming off her was intensifying, becoming a palpable, radiating wave. The air in the conduit grew thick, heavy with her scent, which was now stronger, muskier. It was intoxicating and alarming all at once. My own body was reacting against my will. A flush spread across my skin, my muscles tensed. What the hell was happening? "This conduit," she said, her voice now a low, husky growl. "It amplifies everything. The resonance." "Resonance? What are you talking about?" I could feel a tremor start in her body, a fine vibration that passed directly into me. Her breathing was becoming shorter, harsher. "The stone," she gasped, her hand moving to the pouch on her hip. "And you. The proximity. It is creating a feedback loop." The warmth she was emitting was no longer just warmth. It was heat, a blistering biological furnace. I could feel it through my clothes, through my skin, sinking right into my bones. My own instincts were screaming. Part of my brain was yelling danger, but a deeper, more primitive part was responding, leaning into it. "Zilia, what's going on?" I demanded, my voice barely a whisper. A stress-induced biological imperative," she managed to get out, her words tight and clipped. "A heat, my cycle, the battle, the danger, it has been triggered. A heat cycle. Oh, fuck me. Of all the goddamn things. Can you control it?" I asked, my voice laced with a panicky edge I barely recognized. Her answer was a low, guttural sound that was halfway between a curse and a moan. Her hips shifted, pressing against me. An involuntary, instinctual movement. "Control is difficult," she breathed, her lips now against the shell of my ear. "My people, we do not suppress the trial. We face it. We conquer it." I had a very, very bad feeling about what she meant by trial. "And you," she continued, her voice thick with a desire that was terrifying and magnetic. "You triggered it. Your defiance, your scent. It marked you as a challenge." "That's insane," I hissed. "I didn't do anything." "You exist," she growled. And in that moment, I knew I was in more danger than I had ever been in my life. Not from the mercs below, but from the alien empress in heat, trapped in a metal tube with me. "You challenged me," she repeated. her voice no longer her own. It was a raw, primal thing, stripped of all royalty and reason. It was pure instinct. Her hands, impossibly strong, clamped onto my hips, arresting my forward movement. The conduit, which had felt claustrophobic before, now felt like a coffin. This isn't a challenge, Zelia. It's a fucking survival situation. I twisted, trying to reason with her, to break the spell of whatever biological tidal wave was consuming her. We have to keep moving. The trial of union is its own survival, she snarled, her breath coming in hot, ragged pants against my neck. To deny it is to invite death. To conquer is to create life. My body knows this. It knows you. Her pheromones were a drug in the air, thick and cloying. My logical mind was screaming, but my body was betraying me, reacting to the overwhelming sensory input. The heat radiating from her was a fire, and I was catching spark. My own instincts, buried deep beneath layers of cynicism and sarcasm, were stirring. A fight-or-flight response that was getting hopelessly confused. She shoved me hard against the wall of the conduit, the metal groaning in protest. The sound was terrifyingly loud. I prayed the mercs hadn't heard it. With a surge of strength, she managed to twist us around. A feat of sheer brute force and dexterity that should have been impossible in such a tight space. Now I was on my back and she was on top of me, pinning me down. Her golden eyes were blown wide, the pupils dilated until they were just black pools of feral hunger. I claim this trial, she gasped, her fingers digging into the fabric of my shirt. I claim this, mate. Like hell you do, I grunted, struggling against her. It was useless. She had me completely immobilized. It was like wrestling with a piece of industrial machinery. The struggle was frantic, desperate. My hands pushed against her shoulders. My legs tried to find purchase to throw her off. But for every ounce of force I exerted, she met it with two. Her body was a coil of tense, powerful muscle, driven by a biological imperative that dwarfed my panicked resistance. The fight was raw, animalistic, a clash of wills in a metal tube suspended over a kill zone. But as we fought, something shifted. The scent, the heat, the sheer overwhelming force of her need. It was breaking through my defenses. My resistance, born of fear and violation, started to fray at the edges, tainted by a rising, unwelcome arousal. Her hands went to the waistband of my pants. I froze. Zelia, don't, I whispered, the words sounding weak and hollow even to my own ears. She didn't listen. She didn't even hear me. She was lost to the heat, to the trial. Her own movements were rough, efficient, tearing at the clasps of her own tunic, exposing the sweat-slicked turquoise skin of her collarbones and the swell of her breasts. The sight was breathtaking and terrifying. It wasn't seduction, it was conquest, a dominance ritual playing out in the most dangerous place imaginable. And my body, the fucking traitor, was surrendering long before my mind was ready to. The fear was still there, a cold knot in my stomach, but it was now wrapped in a sheath of raw, undeniable lust. This was wrong, it was insane. But my God, I wanted her. I wanted this. I stopped fighting. My body went slack beneath her, a silent, unwilling consent. She paused, her head cocked, sensing the shift. Her golden eyes searched mine, and for a fleeting second, I thought I saw a flicker of the real Zelia, a glimmer of confusion in the depths of the feral haze. Then it was gone, swallowed by the heat. "You submit," she rasped, a note of dark triumph in her voice. "The challenger yields." With a final, decisive movement, she positioned herself over me. The contact was electric, a jolt that arched my back. She threw her head back, a silent scream of victory or release, and then she drove down. The world dissolved into a chaos of pure sensation. Pain, pleasure, the scrape of metal against my back, the suffocating heat of her body, the musky, intoxicating scent of her skin. It was brutal. It was overwhelming. It was a violation and a consummation all at once. Every thrust was a claim, an act of possession. We were no longer Kale and Zelia. We were just two creatures, male and female, caught in a biological firestorm, fucking in a metal coffin while death waited patiently below. The climax was a cataclysm, a violent, shuddering crash that felt like it shook the very structure of the conduit. For me, it was a release of tension so profound, it bordered on oblivion. My vision whited out, my mind blissfully, terrifyingly blank. For Zelia, it was something more. A guttural cry was torn from her throat, a sound of agony and ecstasy, and her entire body locked rigid above me. It was in that shared, blinding moment that I felt it. A sharp, burning sensation on the skin of my chest, just over my heart. It felt like a brand, a searing mark being etched into my flesh. I cried out, a raw sound of pain that was swallowed by the intensity of the orgasm. When my vision cleared, she had collapsed onto me, her full weight a dead, heavy thing. Her breathing was a series of long, shuddering gasps. The oppressive heat that had been pouring off her was receding, the fire banking, leaving behind a shimmering, exhausted warmth. The thick pheromonal haze in the air began to thin, and with its departure, reason came flooding back in. Cold, harsh, and utterly horrifying. What the fuck had we just done? I lay there, pinned beneath her, my mind reeling. The sounds of the mercs below, which had faded into a dull background roar, came back into sharp focus. The risk, the insanity of it all, crashed down on me. I gently pushed at her shoulder. "Zelia?" She stirred, lifting her head slowly. Her eyes met mine. The feral, hungry haze was gone. In its place was a look of profound, soul-deep shock. Her pupils had contracted, and the intelligent, arrogant empress was back, and she looked horrified. Her gaze dropped from my face to my chest. I followed her look. There, on my skin, was a mark. It was a faint, intricate pattern like a circuit board and a constellation had a baby. It shimmered with a soft, internal golden light, the same color as her eyes. It was the source of the burning. Zelia scrambled off me, moving with a desperate haste that was the complete opposite of her earlier confident aggression. She pressed herself against the far side of the conduit, putting as much space between us as the narrow tube would allow. She pulled the torn remnants of her tunic together, her movements frantic. She wouldn't look at me. From her point of view, the world had tilted on its axis. The heat had been a red fog, a primal imperative that had consumed everything. She remembered the defiance in the human's scent, the unexpected jolt of connection when they'd touched. She had felt the trial begin, a biological certainty that he was the cause, the challenge, the target. The fight in the conduit, his resistance, had only fueled the fire, confirming his worthiness in the ancient, brutal language of her bloodline. Conquering him was not a choice. It was a necessity. The climax was meant to be a victory, the sealing of her dominance. But as the haze cleared, she felt the bond mark burn itself into her own skin, mirroring the one she knew was now on his. It wasn't just a mark of a successful trial. It was permanent, irrevocable. She had not just conquered a mate. She had bound herself to a primitive, sarcastic soft skin from a forgotten scrap heap. The political and personal implications were catastrophic. She, the Empress of the Ashfall worlds, was now ritually and biologically tied to an unknown, unvetted alien. Her enemies would see it as a weakness. Her people would see it as a disgrace. A long, tense silence stretched between us, broken only by the groan of the dying ship. I was the one to finally break it. My voice was a hoarse croak. "What?" I said. My gaze locked on the glowing sigil on my chest. "The absolute fuck is this?" "It is a bond mark," Zelia said, her voice small and tight. She still wouldn't meet my eyes. She was staring at her own hands as if they'd betrayed her. "It signifies a completed union." "A union?" I pushed myself into a sitting position, my muscles screaming in protest. I felt violated, confused, and dangerously angry. "You call that a union? That was an attack. You lost your goddamn mind." "My mind was not my own," she whispered. "The heat, it is a primal state. It saw you as a challenge to be met. Your defiance on the bridge, your scent, it designated you." "Designated me for what? To be your unwilling fucking stud?" My voice was rising, echoing slightly in the metal tube. I forced it back down, remembering the mercs. "You marked me," I said, the accusation low and vicious, like some stray dog. She finally looked at me, and her golden eyes were filled with a misery so profound it momentarily silenced me. "It marked me too." She pulled aside the tattered collar of her tunic. There on her turquoise skin was the same shimmering golden sigil that now adorned my chest. A perfect match. "It is permanent," she added, her voice cracking on the last word. "The bond cannot be broken." The finality of her statement hung in the air between us, heavier than the failing ship. We were bonded, tied together, whether we liked it or not. The fury inside me warred with a sudden, bewildering sense of connection. It was faint, a barely perceptible hum at the back of my consciousness, but it was there. A thin, psychic thread now stretched between us. I could almost feel the roiling storm of her shame and regret. A sudden burst of plasma fire from below jolted us back to the present. The mercs were getting restless, probably starting a systematic sweep. "We have to move," I said, my tone flat and businesslike. It was the only way I could deal with this. Focus on survival. Process the life-altering clusterfuck later. Zelia nodded, her expression hardening as she forced her personal crisis away. The warrior was resurfacing. The pod bay. Right. I started crawling again, the motion agonizing. Every muscle ached. My mind was a whirlwind. Bonded. To her, to an alien empress who had essentially assaulted me while in the throes of some biological madness. I should hate her. A big part of me did. But the image of her face when she saw the mark, the sheer devastation in her eyes, chipped away at that hate. She hadn't wanted this either. We were two victims of a biological imperative I couldn't even begin to comprehend. As I crawled, something strange happened. I was about to warn her about a loose panel I knew was ahead, but before I could speak, I felt a pulse of understanding, a shared intent. She adjusted her position, avoiding the panel without me saying a word. I glanced back. She was looking at me, her eyes wide with surprise. She'd felt it too. The bond mark wasn't just a brand, it was a link, a direct nonverbal connection. A sudden cold premonition washed over me from her. Danger. Close. I froze, flattening myself against the floor of the conduit. Zelia did the same instantly. Below us, the beam of a helmet light played across the grated floor, inches from my face. My heart hammered against my ribs. The merc passed beneath us, oblivious. We waited, not daring to breathe until he was gone. I looked back at her again. A silent question passed between us. "You felt that?" Her nod was almost imperceptible. "Yes." Holy shit. This changed things. This changed everything. It was a tactical advantage born from a personal disaster. We might just survive this. And then what? The thought was even more terrifying than the mercs. Surviving meant we had to face what we'd done, what we'd become to each other. The rest of the crawl through the conduit was a tense, silent ballet. We no longer needed to speak. Intentions, warnings, and directions flowed between us through the strange new link. A flicker of my thought, left turn ahead, was met with an answering pulse of acknowledgement from her. Her sudden mental spike of alarm warned me of a merc patrol directly at the conduit's exit before my eyes could even confirm it. We were a unit, moving with a seamless, terrifying efficiency. It felt like I'd had a piece of her mind grafted onto my own. We reached the exit, a ventilation grate overlooking the engine room's upper gantry. The maintenance pod bay was on the far side, past a group of 4 Corvasha mercenaries who were guarding the entrance. They were heavily armed, their plasma repeaters held at the ready. A frontal assault was suicide. A stealthy approach was impossible. We were stuck. "They are watching the main gantry." Her thought came, clear as a spoken word in my mind. It wasn't her voice, just the pure concept. They are not watching the coolant pipes below. I looked down. A network of thick, shielded pipes ran beneath the gantry, slick with condensation. It was a risky path. A slip would mean a long fall or worse, discovery, but it was our only chance. "I'll go first," I sent back, my own thought feeling clumsy and loud compared to hers. "Draw their fire. You take them from the flank." A wave of sharp refusal hit me. "No, we move together, we strike together. The bond gives us an advantage. We use it." She was right. Splitting up would sever the short-range tactical link we had. Together, we were more than the sum of our parts. I nodded, a physical gesture to reinforce the mental agreement. I pushed the grate open silently and slipped out, landing with a soft thud on the gantry. Zelia was right behind me, a turquoise shadow. We dropped down to the pipes, our boots finding purchase on the slick metal. We moved in perfect sync. I would anticipate her next handhold. She would sense my shift in balance and compensate. It was like a dance we'd practiced 1,000 times. We were halfway across when one of the mercs looked down. His helmeted head snapped in our direction. A harsh, guttural shout echoed through the engine room. We'd been spotted. All 4 repeaters swiveled toward us. There was no time to think, only to act. Zelia shoved me. A pulse of pure command, "Move!" blasted through our link. I ducked just as a volley of green plasma bolts sizzled through the air where my head had been, splashing against the bulkhead behind me. I fired back, my own shot going wide but forcing one of the mercs to take cover. Zelia was already moving, scrambling along the pipes with inhuman speed, her pistol barking. She didn't aim like a soldier. She aimed like a predator, her shots targeting joints and weapon arms, disabling instead of killing immediately. I followed her lead, my mind instinctively falling into a rhythm with hers. Her thought was a sharp, crystalline image. The one on the left. Pin him. I laid down a suppressing fire on the leftmost merc, forcing him behind a support strut. That gave Zelia the opening she needed. She launched herself from the pipes, clearing a 10-foot gap to land on the gantry behind them. It was a move of breathtaking athleticism and suicidal bravery. Before they could turn, she was on them. It wasn't a fight. It was a slaughter. She moved through them like a blur of turquoise fury. A pistol whip to one, a brutal kick to another's knee. Her movements were economical, precise, and utterly final. I scrambled up onto the gantry to back her up, but by the time I got there, it was over. 3 mercs were down, groaning and incapacitated. The 4th lay dead, a plasma burn smoking in the center of his chest. Zelia stood over him, her chest heaving, her knuckles bloody. She was magnificent. She was terrifying. She looked at me, and through our link, I felt the roaring inferno of her battle rage bank, replaced by a cool, sharp assessment of our situation. The anger between us was still there, a raw wound beneath the surface. But now, layered on top of it, was a thick, undeniable coating of grudging respect. She had saved my life. I had saved hers. The bond mark on my chest pulsed with a faint, golden warmth. It wasn't just a symbol anymore. It was a fact, proven in blood and plasma. We found the maintenance pods in a small, pressurized bay off the main engine room. They were little more than metal coffins with engines, designed for single-person EVA repairs. There were 2 of them left in their cradles. Our ticket out. The immediate danger was over. The adrenaline was fading, leaving behind a profound exhaustion and the deafening, awkward silence between us. The elephant in the room wasn't just an elephant. It was a herd of rampaging, pheromone-crazed alien mammoths. I leaned against the cool metal of a bulkhead, the plasma pistol feeling heavy in my hand. "So," I said, the words sounding ridiculously inadequate. "What now, Your Highness?" I'd meant for it to be sarcastic, but the bite was gone. Just sounded tired. Zelia was checking the energy readings on one of the pods. She didn't look at me. "Now we leave," she said, her voice strained. "We survive. And then, we just go our separate ways? Pretend this whole clusterfuck never happened?" I touched the mark on my chest through my shirt. It was still warm. "You said it yourself. This thing is permanent." She finally turned to face me. The confident, arrogant warrior queen was gone, replaced by someone who looked lost and burdened. The weight of her impromptu union was clearly settling on her shoulders. "In my culture," she began, her voice low and formal, as if she were reciting a law, "the bond is a sacred, absolute claim. It supersedes all other allegiances, all other laws. A claim," I repeated, a humorless laugh escaping my lips. "So what, you own me now? I'm your fucking pet scavenger?" The word pet made her flinch. "No, it is mutual. A warrior does not claim that which they do not also protect. A bonded mate is to be guarded with one's life. Their goals become our goals. Their enemies become our enemies." She looked at the dead mercs back on the gantry. "I am the rightful empress of the Ashfall worlds. I have powerful enemies. The Korvasha are just one faction paid by those who usurped my throne. By bonding with me, you have painted a target on your back for the rest of your life." A cold dread washed over me. I just wanted a decent score. Maybe enough credits for a new ship, a few weeks of easy living. Now I was embroiled in an alien civil war. "Fuck me," I whispered, sliding down the wall to sit on the deck. I ran a hand through my greasy hair. "This is complicated." A small, dangerous smile touched Zelia's lips for the first time. It was a ghost of her former arrogance, but different now. Sharper. "Good," she said, her golden eyes locking onto mine. I hate things that are simple. She walked over and stood above me, looking down. The power dynamic had shifted so many times in the last few hours I had whiplash, but this felt different. It wasn't dominance, not anymore. It was assessment. It was acceptance. You are not a soft skin, she said, the term now sounding less like an insult and more like an incorrect observation. You are a survivor. You are cunning. You fought by my side. And you're a maniac in heat who got us into this mess, I shot back. But there was no real venom in it. It was just banter, the only way I knew how to process the unprocessed. Her smile widened. And you are the defiant challenger who met the trial. The outcome is the same. She extended a hand to me. It wasn't a command. It was an offer, an invitation. I stared at her hand, at the long turquoise fingers and the calluses of a warrior. This was insane. My life was over. Or maybe it was just beginning. With a sigh that felt like it came from the soles of my feet, I took her hand. Her grip was firm, warm. The bond mark on my chest flared with a pleasant, golden heat, and I felt an answering pulse from her. "All right, Empress," I said, letting her pull me to my feet. "You've got yourself a bonded mate, but I'm telling you right now, I'm expensive. I will pay any price," she said, her voice dropping to a low, intense whisper that sent a shiver down my spine. "Because what is mine?" she said, her thumb brushing over the mark on my chest. "I protect, to the death." It wasn't a happy ending. It wasn't even a sane one. It was a new, dangerous, and intensely intimate beginning. We were a disaster, a cosmic accident. And as we climbed into our separate escape pods, the psychic link between us humming with unspoken promises and threats, I had a feeling the universe was in for a hell of a show.